Alex being with KSI Wrestling with Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady, who's coming off a first round TKO at Fury FC 69. Abdul, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Alex. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm very happy to be talking with you, man. It's been just a little over 2 weeks since your fight. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Just a little upset that I still haven't gotten that call because honestly, you know, I'm just waiting on that call. And for me, as soon as the fight was over, I was happy for like maybe just 2, 3 days, but I was already looking forward to what's to come after. After a fight like that, especially when you finish in the first 2 rounds after a long camp. Sorry, you finish in the first 2 minutes and you're untouched. You feel like, how you're so excited for the fight? You kind of feel like the fight didn't happen yet. So you're ready to get back in there. You're ready to like do even better, do more. So I didn't even skip anything. Like I fought on Saturday. I fought on Friday. I was back to training Saturday morning and back in the gym like the Fortis at Monday because it was the weekend, so there was no training. So we got back there on Monday, and I'm still going. I'm consistent. I'm keeping my weight at a certain level where I could make weight in 2 weeks. So man, it feels good, but kind of like, hey, I really want to get this UFC debut before the end of the year, just so I could have at least 3 fights done this year.
But before we get to the what's next for you, man, I want to ask. Your fight was not even 3 minutes. How did you feel about your performance?
I felt great, man. I'm not just happy with how the fight like ended quickly. I'm happy at how it went exactly according to plan. I knew this guy, brawls, and the way he wins is if you go into his game. Is if he starts brawling and you brawl back, that's when he catches his opponents and he gets his wins. So I was like, I could totally fight and I could beat him with the punches, but why join his game if I could just come out flawless, like not even touched? And that's exactly what happened. He came, he threw all the punches, and I was just aware, very calm, but aware of his punches. I just moved my head, the footwork, stuff, a lot of stuff that I spent months working on, even before I got the call about this fight, which was my footwork. It was just a few seconds to let it show, but it worked exactly according to plan. Where he'd look like it looked like Matador and the Bull. He would just come straight at me, and I'd just take a corner with like the check hook, and he just go into the cage or something. And then the goal is like really take him down and just destroy him on the ground, and that was the goal. There's certain fights when I take people down, and I'm like, all right, let me just feel them out. So it's like the first 10 seconds, you try to get him to explode or for him to get tired, and then you start doing your pass. But I just had this feeling when I the way I took him down and I threw my first 4 or 5 punches, I was like, no, no, this fight is gonna end quick. Like I'm not gonna sit here and wait for him. I'm gonna just keep punching. And he actually took some punch. There was like a few times where I thought the referee was gonna stop it, but he didn't. And then I just kept hitting, especially when I started seeing the blood all over me from him. And I was just like, all right, like this is it. Like it could have been the fourth or fifth round, but once I start seeing blood, it's like a whole new fight starts all over again.
Yeah, it was a violent, quick fight, man, and you left your mark. And then just before we talk about what's next and what you want next, for anybody that does not know your story, how did you get into mixed martial arts?
So I mean, I've been watching MMA with my dad when I was younger, and MMA and boxing, and it was always just a dream. Like wow, like to fight one day on TV, like that would be really nice. And I always wanted to fight on TV, and I always wanted to fight in the biggest promotions, not at all for the fame that it comes with, but because only the best fighters in the world fight on TV, and only the best fighters in the world fight in the biggest promotions. And I'm very competitive. Like I could play like pool with you or table tennis and like just get very competitive about it. And like if I want to play, I want to play with the best player in the room. If I want to play anything, I want like if I want to win, I want to make sure I'm beating the best person, not just any person and say like, "Oh, I'm really good at this." So for MMA, in order for me to beat the best fighters, it has to be in the UFC. And it was always my dream as a little kid. That's the goal. So, but in order to get to that goal, I had to start somewhere, right? So I started in different promotions, and I fought my way up, and then I made my way up to a promotion called Brave Combat Federation, and then I fought some really tough people there that were like ex UFC fighters, and that was giving me a taste of like what the competition is. And I was able to TKO my opponents and finish them, and it was a great time, and I won the world title. And then I just kept growing from there. I had some hiccups down the road, and I just dug myself out of those losses back into the winning column. And it's just been a nice career for me so far. This month, September, or no, September already passed, but September marked my 10th year anniversary of professional fighting. And it was nice to reflect and see my stages throughout the way and how I grew. And the passion is there still, exact like it's my first day fighting, my first day training. I still get that same excitement. And to me, to be honest, that's one of the most important things that shows you where the success of an MMA fighter is going to go, is that passion and love for the sport. How much of that do they still have? You
Mm.
know, sometimes when fighters they become champions, then they kind of lose that motivation, that hunger that kept them on that road. Thankfully, I've never lost that hunger. I've become champion in multiple organizations, and I'm the type that always sets a bigger goal. As soon as I win a fight that I've been just thinking about for the last 3 months and training about every day, I think of the next fight, the bigger fight, the bigger organization. So that's just where I'm at, and I feel that's the mindset that got me where I am today, and that's going to get me to where I still want to go.
How'd you end up at Fortis?
I was in Jordan, and then I have some family here in Dallas and in some other states. So every chance I get when I was studying in school over there, like every winter break, fall break, summer break, I travel 3 times a year, 4 times a year to different training camps. And I went to Boston first. I went to just different places to visit family and friends, but also to train at some nice gyms nearby. And then when I was here, I was scouting the gyms because now at this point, I'm about to graduate in like a year and a half or 2 years. So I want to see where am I going to live, and that's going to depend on what team is going to take me to the next level. And I came to Dallas to visit some family, and then Octagon MMA, where Coach Safe was training at the time, was one of the gyms, or I would say one of the last gyms I visited. Because after visiting Coach Safe and seeing how the training was, I never thought of training anywhere else again. Like I just knew at that point there was only maybe one fighter in the UFC, Sean Spencer, if you remember him. There's none of the guys that you see right now in the UFC were in the UFC at that time. They were all like fighting legacy, and but you could tell that that team and this coach is gonna go far. It's like when you see a prospect in MMA, he's still young, he's still like 3-0, but he's gonna go far places. I could tell the same thing about the coach and the team, where like this team is gonna go far. I didn't care about the shiny bright lights. Like I didn't want to go to a team that's already so famous, because in my head I was still young. I wanted to kind of do that, but I've had like some advice from good fighters, good friends, and said, hey, listen, if you go to this team just because of the hype, you're just gonna get lost in the team. You want a team that you're gonna grow with, and then I met Coach Safe in 2014, and then every time I'd visit, it was just to go train with Coach Safe. And then I had some fights. Hey, Coach, what do you think? This and that, and then that's it. I just became part of the team in the earlier days, until Fortis opened, and so I was one of the first fighters at Fortis with Coach's team. So we were there from the beginning, and I've watched the growth. All of my teammates, that we started together, started getting signed to the UFC, one after the other. I had my own thing going on with Brave, and I was like the star over there. So I wasn't really like, the UFC was always the goal, but I wasn't really too crazy about wanting to go in now, because I had a really good thing going on. And then, so I fought with my teammates and with coach, and we had a good time. We always supported each other. So, yeah, Fortis has been my family since before it was actually Fortis.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. All right. So, a lot has changed since your last two losses in 2019. You're on this run, looking better than ever. What changed?
So really, I just worked a lot on my mind. Before that, there was just so much physical training. It was just a lot of like just, strength and conditioning, boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, just a lot of hard work, a lot of sweating. But I never really worked on like just the mindset of fighting and just how to control your emotions. Fighting was just very physical to me. I'm not scared. I don't have anxiety in a negative way, but I do kind of get really energetic. I get really hyper. And, emotions isn't just fear, there's the excitement. And I used to get too excited. I love MMA so much that it excites me to a point where sometimes I stop fighting like how I spar. I do extra stuff, like just because I'm so excited and I'm so happy. And I'm like, oh, the walkout, the fans, like it wasn't bad pressure. It was just too much excitement. And I feel like, I don't really see this in my point of view at that time, but I do see it now. It was just advice that I've gotten from, coach and stuff, that I just need to block out all the emotions and just basically poker face my way through the whole fight. Not trying to enjoy the walkout, not trying to enjoy, the announcer shouting out my name, not trying to really like be overly aggressive towards my opponent before the fight, just to be like, all right, whatever, like it's a job, is gonna get done, just like sparring. And then, and that's how I started to spar. Instead of really enjoying my sparring, like being hyper, I just started to spar very calmly, aggressively but calmly, and do everything with intention. Like everything that I do, whether it's a kick or a block or a movement, has an intention, and that's what I've been doing in my fights. So my opponents could be aggressive, they could say certain things, and I'll just poker face it. Like, okay, it's whatever. I'm not making it a big deal. Whereas in Brave, I was a star there, so I'd be like, all right, I can't lose. I gotta win. It has to be like something flashy, something. So I think about the ways of finishing and winning, and instead of just going out there and just having fun and just do what I do every single day. So Coach Safe, taught me to make the situation much smaller than what it is. Like it's just an everyday thing. And I feel like that has helped me in a very positive way of how to deal with fighting, is to not make it like a big deal and not make it like the event that I've been training for 3 months and just getting ready for all my life. Like everything's on the line. Like, no, actually, like nothing's on the line, and it's just a sparring session. And to me, that made me perform better. To some people, they might need some motivation, they might need something to push them, but I'm just a very motivated individual. I need something to just calm me down.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And man, well, motivated. You're motivated to get to the UFC. I think you're UFC caliber. Is that what you want next?
Man, that I need that. It's not what I want. I need that because I feel like as a full-time professional MMA fighter, I'm not putting a plan B. Like I'm not saying, all right, well, if UFC doesn't work, I'm gonna get this job. I'm not already working that job where I'm like, well, it's okay, I have time. Like I'm putting my blood, sweat, and tears in this. And I've been doing MMA for 10 years for this exact purpose. Like if I don't get in the UFC and get on a long run and win and enter the top 15, and that's my goal, is like top 15, top 10, top 5 championship, then I have failed myself, you
Mm,
know? And I understand losing a couple fights along the way happens. I understand injuries happen, but I'm at the point right now where I feel I've done enough. I'm healthy. I'm ready. I got the fans. I got everything the UFC would want from a fighter, and I believe I could maybe get at least the 80% percentage of win bonuses to win to winning in my fights. Like the way I fight, I think at least 80% of my wins in the UFC will have fight night bonuses. Like I'm bringing excitement, not just because I want to do it for the fans, but that's just how I fight.
Absolutely. Like you come in and you either finish a guy or you get finished. Like that's your fight style. You're exciting, and that's what fans want to see. Like they don't want to see decision fighters, and that's not what
Yeah,
you are, man. And it's fun. And so I mean, what's a perfect timeline? Like, are you staying? Like, do you want to fight this year, or are you looking towards like next year? Like, what's up?
definitely. I mean, definitely. I will. My goal that I had, like the perfect goal, was to fight September 22nd and then or 23rd and get on that Abu Dhabi card because I fought there before and I have tons of fans over there. But it looks like that card is already full and the lightweight fight that fell out has already been replaced. But I have, like the Marcel on Twitter and like Farah Hanoun, like I have those accounts on alert. I'm just waiting for a lightweight to drop out, and I'll just take his spot. I'm ready, man. No, November, end of October, like December. And I just saw there was like no fights from December 17th to the end of the year. So I'm looking like really any of those cards to replace anyone, you know. Now if the UFC would book me from now, like in the January cards, then of course I'd be happy. But like in my head, at least I'm getting ready to fight in November, and then the last thing I want is to keep saying, I want to fight in the UFC, I want to fight in the UFC, and then they say, all right, here's the fight. And I say, oh, well, I'm not ready. So I understand the UFC. I understand the stages of respect in the UFC. And as a beginning to get signed, they're going to be like, well, if you want to get signed and you want to show us that you deserve it, you just got to be ready. And then I know I'll do that in the beginning and then I'll earn my respect on my way up. Like I know it's something you have to earn, and I'm ready.
If the cards are all full and you can't get on a card this year, would you be willing to go back to Fury and fight for a title first, or is it UFC or bust at this point?
Man, honestly, like I fought LFA and I fought Fury twice. Like it would just drive me crazy in my head to be like, why would I have to go back? And it's no disrespect to any of those organizations, but it's like, why? Like this is all time and money that I pay a lot of people, to not get paid that type of money, that I'm spending. Um, so I'm not trying to think like that right now. And at the same time, I don't want to be sitting on the shelf because the only reason I waited from February until September is because I thought there was going to be a shot that was supposed to happen in the summer, and it didn't go through. But like, come on, like, don't do this to me right now. So I'm really just trying to push really hard. Coach Safe, he's managing me, and he's also working on that. And I just really hope we could get something done.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it seems like Safe is at the UFC Apex every 2 weeks. So I'm sure if you were just to come with him one of these times and someone falls off, you could slip right in there, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the cards. Which ones are interesting. They have something possible to come up, and then you never know. You'll see me there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not if it's when
It's when.
that's I think you're UFC caliber. I think a lot of the hardcore fans know that you're UFC caliber. And like I said, it's only just when you're coming. So Abdul, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. If you want to plug your social media, if you want to plug any sponsors you might have, and if you want to thank anybody, the floor is yours.
Sure. I really want to thank everyone here that's listening, and following, and just as much as you guys could push my name out there for the UFC to see that, I'd appreciate it. My Instagram handle is Selwady MMA. That's SELWADY MMA. And yeah, follow me from now because you're gonna witness greatness on my journey to the top.